Podcast. I am your host, Chris Patrick. It is September 29th, 2023. We're cutting this month's recording real close to the deadline, but I'll be sure to have this out for you Saturday the 30th. We are in the Santan Valley studios here for Valley Sports Plug, watching the Diamondbacks game, recording this podcast. And with me, of course, are my co-hosts. First, we have the captain of cool, Mr. Michael Benjamin.
21. Can you do something for me? Hey. You love it, Tallman.
It's my favorite.
You gotta love it. And that brings me to my next co-host here, the undeniable VSP Tallman. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't come up with the
Oh, man. I was waiting for something like really disrespectful.
It should have been something about your success with the Tallman ticket or lack thereof.
All right. Can we wait a little bit to talk about that? My goodness.
Yeah, we can. And maybe we can do the Tallman ticket like while we're on the pod here.
Ooh.
Because then it'll be out tomorrow, which is Saturday. And then we can, we've done it before.
Well, then, shit, I got to start
looking at. We just got back from our trip to Pittsburgh for my bachelor party. Thank you guys so much for going out there with me. Did you guys have fun?
Oh, hell yeah, man.
Oh, it was incredible. The Steelers Stadium, what's it called?
Acusure Stadium, formerly known as Heinz Field.
Yeah, sounds like some facial cream.
We talked about that though. Like it'll always be Heinz Field, just like Chase Field will always be Bank One Ballpark.
Yeah, it's been Chase Field for a while.
It has, and I mean I'm comfortable. Like we definitely like, especially on here and like when we're doing pods and stuff, I'll definitely refer to it as Chase Field, and that is how I know it. But Bank One Ballpark still has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, but going back to the trip, man, it was crazy going into a different football stadium, let alone the Steelers. Which I mean, I know we have mixed feelings about the Steelers. Preferably on this side of the table with myself and Michael Benjamin. But walking into a stadium where you have such a loyal fan base, and it didn't matter that the offense didn't have a single snap in the red zone, and I mean, it didn't matter. Like everyone was out there. You didn't see people selling their tickets. You didn't see Browns fans taking over the stadium. The place was absolutely electric, and makes you jealous as a sports fan when we're sitting in Arizona and we don't really have that same experience here.
That was definitely the same thought when I was jealous at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely.
A little bit of jealousy definitely crept into my head because there was still a decent Cleveland Brown fan presence there, right, guys? Yep. Like I saw plenty of Nick Chubb jerseys, plenty of... I saw a Colt McCoy jersey at one point.
Did you really? But it was easily like 85-15.
100%.
Right? Like it wasn't like 50-50.
It was a healthy ratio.
Yeah. It was a normal ratio.
Well, even with the Browns, like Browns makes a little more sense because it's pretty close proximity to Pittsburgh. It's like a 5-hour drive, probably a 30-minute flight, 45-minute flight. It's like us going to California or Colorado or something like that.
It's a division game, too.
And a division game, exactly. So there was expected to be some Browns fans there. I wasn't surprised. Like, it wasn't a complete black and gold out or anything like that. But it was just a great way to end the trip. We did that on Monday night, left on Tuesday. We even got to catch a Pirates game while we were out there. I want to get into the trip a little bit more in depth and chat with you guys about that because it really was a great time. Pittsburgh's a great city. But I am glad to be home, man, and so much is happening here in the West and in Phoenix in particular. The Suns making some moves. We got some big news this week. DeAndre Ayton has been traded to the Portland Trail Blazers. Damian Lillard's heading to Milwaukee to play with Giannis and the Bucks. And then in Arizona, we get Yusuf Nurkic, Nasir Little, Keon Johnson, and I think that's it. And we're expected to waive Keon Johnson, but definitely going to have to chat about that and the implications it's going to have for the upcoming Suns season. Diamondbacks are in the hunt for a wild card spot right now. Like I mentioned, we're watching their third to last game of the season against the Astros. They're starting that series here tonight. And then tomorrow, we'll be heading out to that game. Justin Verlander on the mound. I think Merrill Kelly probably on the mound if the rotation is still.
If we don't win tonight.
You think
he's pitching tomorrow.
They'll probably win, do like a bullpen
then we clinch.
Something.
We're gonna reset the rotation. He'll get pulled. He's not gonna start. So then we can go just sit in the stands and have fun, I guess.
Yeah. So these guys are. I think I agree with these guys. What they were saying before we started, like kind of selfishly, we kind of hope they don't win.
Is that bad?
Don't say that.
I feel like it's kind of bad, but at the same time, I just would love to be there. Like I was saying, to see those guys jump in the pool, man.
Yeah.
Get a playoff spot.
I had
for the first
tickets
time
for
in
tonight
6 years.
too, man. I had tickets.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
if you were ready
story.
and willing to mix everything after the game and get it all out, Tallman, like we would have went tonight for sure.
No.
We can't even teach Tallman how to access our TikTok, let alone mix down a pod. Okay.
All right.
The dirty laundry is flowing
I
from Chris
figured it
Heath.
out.
It's coming over from last night, unfortunately.
You guys are mean.
Yeah, and anyone who's listening back, we did talk about a lot of this on our live stream last night. It was Michael Benjamin and I doing a Valley Sports Plug roundtable. We had Nico join us. He's a great guest, a great Valley Sports fan, and has a lot of knowledge and insight on the sports teams. Yeah,
and shout out for Nico for coming on, because he definitely has a different perspective for what exactly happened too, because he's lived in Oregon and has been a Portland fan, almost the past decade. He was a Portland Trailblazers season ticket holder. He was even talking about how he was there for when Nasir Little was drafted and his rookie season. So a guy who gets to truly experience multiple facets of a trade like that, you want to tap into them and see how they're feeling on both fronts, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. His perspective was definitely great to have on there. So go check it out. All of our live streams are available for playback on YouTube, and most of them make it up onto Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those streaming services. So you guys always have plenty of content coming out from us. We get you at least something every week, whether it's a recap or a live stream. Sometimes we try and get two out is usually our goal, but sometimes it just doesn't fall into the schedule, as we kind of live this life. But anyway, plenty to talk about, so I don't want to get too far off topic. Like I mentioned, Suns wild card race, and then I think we'll also probably talk about the Arizona Cardinals a little bit. They have started their season since the last time we recorded our podcast. We did our season predictions, and I think standings wise, you guys are still on pace. 1-2 here before we head over to San Fran to play the 49ers this week. And I had us 0-3, so they are exceeding my expectations so far, but still plenty of season left, and quite a bit to talk about there, and as we all await Kyler Murray's return. But guys, I want to take it back to the top here. We did talk about Pittsburgh a little bit, but I just want to kind of reminisce on that trip a little bit and share with the audience here kind of what the experience was like. Obviously, we've kind of leaned more heavy on the two sports experiences we had out there, and that Saturday going to the Pirates play the Yankees. It was the last game of that series, and the Yankees, had won the prior two, and so they were going for the sweep, but David Bednar and the Pirates were able to close the door on that, and that was a pretty cool environment too. I mean, for a baseball team that is not going to be in the playoffs, doesn't really have much going for it, the fans still seem pretty engaged, still coming out and showing out. I know it was a Saturday game, but I thought even that was a pretty cool environment. I got into that one, and Ian, again, a guy who joins us on our roundtables, he's a Yankees fan, so it was cool to kind of have him see his Yankees, but also kind of rub it in his face a little bit that the Pirates got that win.
We always know that the Yankees fans travel, right? They're countrywide. We understand that. But, man, there's just something different about that kind of a sports city that truly rides or dies. And let's be honest, are there truly any transplants that are moving to Pittsburgh on a year-by-year basis?
No, probably not.
No, so most of those fans are tried and true and have been there and have grown roots there, so they're going to roll with the Pirates and especially the Steelers as well. But, man, that stadium itself is just a sight to behold. It doesn't matter where you sit. That skyline that sits behind outfield is just so pretty. And we went. It was a rain delay to start. I don't think they ended up changing the game time start, right? They just had the tarp out when we got there.
Yeah, no, it got started,
early.
I think, maybe 10-15 minutes past when it was initially scheduled for, but it wasn't. No, it cleared up pretty quick.
So the sky was gloomy to start. It was beautiful, nice and chilly to start, and then the sun came out, and I had to go get a hat because I would have burned the hell out of my head. That's for damn sure. But hey, what do we know? Shout outs to Miguel Andujar, man, with that big home run. It's just always cool to experience different fan bases in different sports cities, and it's something that we've had conversations here about something that we want to continue moving forward. And I think one of the other places that I'd love to make sure is on that list moving forward as well at some point is the city of Chicago, which is where we had a layover, right?
Yeah.
Gotta go check out a Cubs game, man. Gotta check out a Bears game. For my selfish reasons, I would like to go see the Chicago Bulls as well, but I mean, man, that's just something that if you have the means to do, you got to go outside of your realm and start experiencing these different ballparks, stadiums, arenas, and all that kind of stuff, because it really just brings a breath of fresh air to your own fandom. And man, is it just exciting to dive in it without picking a side, basically, right? Because
be like a neutral fan.
Selfishly for me and Tallman, we didn't care. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, we don't care
really.
if the Pirates or the Yankees win. I don't care if the Browns or the Steelers would have won. Well, yeah. Tallman ticket, baby. But
that's right.
That's sometimes, as a sports enthusiast, one of the best ways to experience an event as well, is just to be non-biased and enjoy the competition itself.
Yeah, no, that's well said, honestly. Like, you really nailed it there. Like, getting to experience different ballparks, different arenas, it's like definitely sparked a desire in me to go and do that more. And like you said, we've discussed it. So hopefully in the near future, we'll continue to do that. You mentioned Chicago. I mean, I'd love to go to Denver and similarly, check out a Broncos game, maybe a Rockies game, Nuggets. I know you and I are definitely probably more akin to wanting to see the NBA games, and Tallman will come along. I know he's getting into it a little more.
Oh, I love myself a basketball game. Don't get me wrong here.
If it's the suite level tickets where you can get all the free food.
Ooh, baby.
But I'm with you there too.
I don't know what the sports betting laws are like in Denver or in Colorado.
It's legal.
It's legal?
Yeah,
very nice.
Pretty sure it's legal.
I mean, everything's legal. Come on.
Yeah,
yeah, right.
Shit, man, I'll go to Detroit and watch Monty Williams coach the Detroit Pistons while they win 15 games.
Far.
You know what I'm saying?
You won't catch me in Detroit.
But I think, man, just absolutely different culture. I think one of the other big things that we were talking about is like, man, I love paying $5 for a beer.
Oh, yeah,
everywhere you go, man. Yeah. That was so big time. But as far as the sporting events goes, the biggest moment for me was when they played Sticks in the fourth quarter, and Cleveland is in their own red zone on the 5-yard line, and the next play, the Steelers got that strip sack, and TJ Watt got the recovery for them to go up in the fourth quarter, and they never relinquished. Like, that's almost a kind of bone-chilling moment, right? Especially if you're a fan of that team, for something that is so deep-rooted within their culture, which is, I know it's something that they do every fourth quarter, right, to get the juices flowing.
Yeah, yep.
And to be in that close of a game on Monday Night Football, and then to make the play of the game. There was no way that the Steelers were going to lose after that. Like, it was just something that was different. I had never experienced before, man. It was wild.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Tallman.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, like I already described it, it was electric in there. It was incredible. And there's something about open-air stadiums, man. And we don't get that in Arizona, but being able to sit there, like in PNC Park at, I'm going to call it Heinz Field, instead of the facial cream name. But just the open air, that East Coast type vibe where it's like, hey, this sport's supposed to be played outside. I mean, that was, I don't know, that's nice. I mean, I guess you can get that at ASU Stadium, but it was incredible experiencing that. And I'm with you guys. We gotta try it out. But wow, yeah, what a game when their only touchdown was a 60-yard pass to Pickens.
Well, and disclaimer, Tallman and I are not defunct Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Like, let's get it straight. As much as Chris wants us to go and have that on our moniker and put it on our jackets.
Yeah, no, and I was kind of rooting.
That's not where we're at, right?
I was kind of rooting for the Browns a little bit until for money reasons, until Nick Chubb got folded like a lawn chair. I hope he has a speedy recovery. Got folded like a lawn chair,
I think it was only an MCL. So
yeah, he only had one tear, which is good.
Wow,
good
that's
for him.
Incredible.
Because that was ugly.
Yeah.
So he's going to play again. But, I mean, we watched that live. I mean, I didn't think at the time, in real time, I didn't think it was going to be as vicious as it was. And then the replay is just rough. But good times.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. And I can't say enough how incredible the environment was. I mean, these guys were even getting into it as neutral fans, just like the environment encaptured them and rallied them to get into it. And we were there with a couple other buddies. Ben Miller, who also, again, another name drop guy who appears on our roundtables from time to time. And AZ Chris, who was in our fantasy draft, he was there. And they were everyone with the exception of Tallman was waving a terrible towel at one point in the ball game. And that thing is just like incredible to me because like I grew up a Steelers fan. You guys all know the story. And I've had several terrible towels, and we would wave them in the living room watching the game and even with the family and everything. But being in a stadium full of people just waving those towels, screaming their absolute fucking heads off, like you said, Mike, like when they played sticks and they got that turnover and the towels are waving and everyone's going crazy, it's absolutely incredible. And again, to tie that in also with what you're saying, Tom, in the open air stadium, it's a night game. I'm wearing a hoodie in September, man.
Different.
Different.
Dude, I can't believe you sold out Mike on the terrible towel thing.
That's fine.
I did it yesterday.
I'm old enough. I know where my allegiances lie. So it's
all right. Okay.
You can't bring me down. Bring it all, baby. I don't give a shit.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
and I mean.
All right.
If anyone's listening, a little background, we had tried to see about going to the Steelers-Cardinals game that was going to be in Pittsburgh, and that's what kind of spawned the whole thought process behind going out there. But we were doing it under the guise of my bachelor party to do it, and I'm getting married in November, and when the schedules finally came out, the Steelers are playing the Cardinals in Pittsburgh in December. So the timing just didn't quite work out. Believe me, I would love to go back out there in December and watch that game.
That would be a cold one.
That would. I was literally at some point in the game. I turned to Mike and I was like, "Man, imagine like a game in like December here,
dude.
Where
It
it's, like,
probably
snowing.
would be snowing if it was our luck, man. I'd have to wear a damn parka.
It would be snowing. I mean, the weather there was pretty insane, but." Yeah, the sports experiences were great. I mean, Tallman, what was your favorite moment of either the Steelers or the Pirates game while we were out there?
Oh man, so you mean when Nick Chubb got hurt? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
no,
when
no.
the cart rolled
When the
onto
cart
the
was
field.
rolling
when the
by.
car was going. No, that's I take that back.
Was
I'm
it all the
sorry.
drunk fans and the dude standing in our way for the first half of the first quarter?
Where you're like, hey, you got a seat?
And his friends behind us were like yelling at him, like, Willie, come up here, come up here. And he wouldn't move. Like he must have been 3 sheets to the wind because he'd look back at him and like almost like smile and wave. And then finally the lady walked down and was like, get your ass up here. What are you doing?
That's
it's like,
great.
thank you, because I didn't want to have to say anything.
Oh yeah. It's either the arms on Duhar home run or
Arms, yeah.
or it's got to be that big touchdown from Pickens.
Yeah, the Pickens
Pickens
touchdown was cool because he was running right into the end zone.
Yeah,
but also the
right.
TJ Watt.
That was on the other side of the field, right?
No, that was
on our
side.
side.
Oh,
Yeah,
Shit,
it was.
maybe I was 3.
So we got all the action, man. We were blessed.
Maybe you were only 2 sheets.
Maybe 1.5.
1.5.
Maybe a dryer sheet.
All right, we're going a little long on this Pittsburgh topic.
Hold on,
Yeah,
last
is this a
thing.
Pittsburgh
Last
podcast?
thing.
No, I have like 1 or 2 more things. But
You do?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
then keep rolling. Keep rolling.
We'll make it quick. Because I just like you mentioned, Mike, the $5 beers and like all the restaurants were super affordable. I'll cut brewskis. We don't gotta talk about brewskis. Well,
Damn it!
it's just if you're ever in Pittsburgh on the South Side Flat, go check out brewskis.
You know
Bring
that
cash.
Max spent a night or two there. Come on,
Bring
now.
cash. I hope he did. That would be tight.
100% he did.
Yeah, it was cool listening to Mac Miller in Pittsburgh. Wiz Khalifa, Black and Yellow, playing a lot while we were out there. But guys, another big staple in Pittsburgh is Permani's sandwiches. We went there. We got the pleasure of going there a couple times. The second sandwich I got was a lot better than the first, but they were both really good. Like, Mike, what did you think of that?
Yeah, stellar. I mean, that's a inner fat boy's dream right there, right? You know what I'm saying? Thankfully, I lost a couple pounds before I went there because, I had my way with those sandwiches. The French fries and the coleslaw on top. I know we had a couple of defactors who didn't follow the proper protocol in regard to getting a sandwich. If you're going to go there, you have to get the fries and the slaw on
It's
it.
okay
You're not
if you don't like
supposed to
coleslaw.
Change up.
You don't have to get coleslaw if you don't
It's
like
just
it.
one of
It's a
those
different
places. You're
experience.
not.
Different.
Yeah,
You don't.
That's
fuck
part
with
of the experience.
I
You're
thought
supposed
this was
to get
America,
the whole thing.
guys. Okay, if I'm gonna pay money, I get to get what I want. Right?
Well, they let you do it, but we all thought a little differently about it.
Okay.
And they
after.
definitely spit in your sandwich in the back too.
They
They were
should.
like, this son of a bitch doesn't know what's going on.
That's all right.
They're like, 1 sandwich, no slaw, hold the spit.
Man, yeah, that was solid. What do you mean you don't want to talk about brewskis? That's probably a Southside staple, man.
Are you kidding? No, it's not.
No, it's the hole in the wall.
It was
on the far right side.
It was all of like 20 steps from the door of our Airbnb.
26 steps.
26
we counted it
steps.
At one point.
We did.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow, that is.
Guys,
Hey, but Tallman won $70 on the Buffalo machine.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it was
losing 100.
I don't want to say it was culture shock. It was a bit of a throwback because I don't know if it's a Pennsylvania thing. I don't want to out them or anything. Whatever, it don't matter. You can smoke inside there.
It's a dive bar.
It's a dive bar. It's a really divey bar. And it was funny because I don't know if you guys noticed, but they had like wood paneling up to like probably 4 or 5 feet up. And they had people were able to tag and like write graffiti all over the wood paneling. But above that, where it was all plaster, there was no graffiti on the plaster. Oh. So they must have had a rule where it's like you can tag anything below the wood. And like people, I guess, were either respective of it or they're constantly whipping out that tan paint to cover it up. But it was really chill. Like, it wasn't ever too crowded when we were there. There were some pool tables in questionable condition, but still a good time. We got to take over the jukebox a couple times. I spent probably $15 requesting songs on the jukebox.
Oh God, we're not going to talk about it.
But
yeah, move on.
Yeah. So Brewskis, that was tight. Tallman, I know you maybe didn't get the same Permanis experience as Mike or I, but the beers in Pittsburgh, did you ever venture out aside from Coors Light while you were out there? You had some Yinglings, right?
You had to have had a Yingling.
No, I didn't like.
You didn't like the Yingling?
No.
That's like a staple on the East Coast. Like, that's a big.
I'm trying to remember. Everywhere we went had Coors Light, so like, I didn't have to.
Maybe I should have asked him this question,
man.
Mike. Maybe I should ask you
Michael
about the beers.
Had some Yingling, pretty smooth, liked it. Had some Icy Light as well. That's a big. I mean, it's freaking black and yellow coloring, so that's just like a Pittsburgh staple.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the first one that I did try, I don't think we had it in the fridge for long enough, and it wasn't cold enough, so I had a skewed vision on it. But then I had some more. Tasted pretty good, man.
Oh, I lied. When T Hill made us drink some Steel City beer.
I think that was Icy Light.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so Tallman has some Icy Light.
Yeah,
he made him.
Okay.
He made him.
Shout out Tyler.
That's right.
Get him involved in the culture.
Okay,
I think
I did have one.
One of the other cool things too, which is something that we don't really get to experience here either than the light rail, was taking the boat to and from games.
Oh yeah,
that was something that was pretty cool too.
Riverboat Ron.
Yeah, they had a ferry that went from where we were staying on the south side, kind of went around the point in I think it's Point State Park, right there, and around and drops you off right by the stadiums. And like we got to ride that a couple times. It's such a quick ride, which is funny that they have a bar because like you barely get if it's busy, you barely get a chance to order a drink before you're getting off the boat. But no, that definitely came in handy. That was a really cool experience. Like. I like that we got to ride it during the day for the Pirates game, and then we rode it at night coming back from the Steelers game. So you got to see the skyline in the day and at night, and just a really awesome skyline. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how cool PNC Park is, and I think it's probably people would probably say it's number one or number two as far as coolest like stadium views. I think Oracle Park is probably the next one as far as when it comes to like an open air good view stadium. But fellas, again, really appreciate you going on that trip with me. That was a blast. We did record a Cardinals recap live from the living room of our Airbnb there, so that was tight. But let's get into these Valley sports topics. We got big news coming out of the NBA. The Phoenix Suns were involved in a 3-team trade with the Portland Trailblazers and the Milwaukee Bucks. We kind of talked about that a little bit, so I just want to get right into it. Basically, the bones of it is Deandre Ayton was traded to the Trailblazers, Damian Lillard was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Suns receive Nasir Little, Yusuf Nurkic, and Keon Johnson. Keon Johnson probably going to get cut. And Grayson Allen. Oh, shit, yeah. Thank you, Mike. Grayson Allen. Yeah. So, Tallman, what is your initial like gut reaction to that trade? Since Mike and I kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday, I want to know what you're thinking. ODA.
Man, are we ever going to be able to live down that not taking Luka Doncic first overall? But that's beside the fact. Imagine if we did take Luka, this would be a completely different team. But man, I mean, my first reaction, not super surprised. I mean, it was kind of intriguing to think about, the big four, we'll call them, going into this season with DA as part of the trio, and seeing what Vogel could do. Could he help him improve? Who knows, right? But again, going back to that first reaction, not surprised. I think he didn't want to be here. I think he wanted a bigger role, and he couldn't provide what this team needs from him, which is protect the paint and collect rebounds, right? He wants to be a scorer first, and the guy that we need second. So it makes sense that he wanted out. I mean, he's going to Portland where he's going to be the number one guy, number two guy, right? I mean, I guess if they hold on to Drew Holiday, I'm sure they're going to ship Drew Holiday on to somewhere else. I can't imagine that he stays there, but he's going to get a way bigger role. And then when the season starts, 30 games in, you're going to have all the Suns fans come out and say, oh my God, it's Mikal Bridges all over again. DA's averaging 26 and 14, 28 and 15. What the Suns messed up. Well, he doesn't have a role in this team. When you're the fourth guy behind Booker, Durant, and Beal, it's like he just didn't fit. He wasn't. There wasn't a home for him here anymore. So we're going to call it addition by subtraction. Can you say is it? Let's say his name.
Yusuf Nurkic.
Yusuf Nurkic. Okay,
Nurkic.
I couldn't even fucking say it.
You'll get used to it.
Obviously, Ayton's a better player than him, right? But to get a center at what he's getting paid 17, 18 million a year, to get a starting center for a lot lower. So we saved a little bit of money, but then you remember our owner doesn't care about money, right? He'll pay whatever he wants. So it was the addition by subtraction. We got deeper as well, which is incredible, and I think it was a good move. We got him out of here. We added depth, even more depth after a great free agency, and I'm okay with it. I think it was a great move. He didn't have a spot here, and it was time for him to move on.
Tallman, the basketball guy, I love it, man.
That was honestly really well spoken.
Oh. Why, thank you.
Let's take a look real quick at DeAndre Ayton's career stats with the Phoenix Suns. In 5 years, he averaged 16.7 points, 10.4 rebounds, 1.6 assists, a block, and he shot 59.7%. Pretty damn good if you look at those stats, right? But DeAndre Ayton was the number one overall pick, right? What I wanted to see was 23 points per game, 12 rebounds, assists, I don't care, 1.5 blocks, and the field goal percentage was good. Guys, I think what happened with DeAndre Ayton is this is something that stemmed back way longer than what has just happened when Damian Lillard called for a trade from the Portland Trailblazers and the Suns found the instance to finally get rid of DeAndre Ayton. This started when we lost to the Dallas Mavericks in Game 7 at home. And everything between him and Monty Williams started to crumble the foundation for their relationship. Then we come back the next year, and he doesn't play in Game 6. He quits on the team in Game 5. And a lot of the players from the word around town, who knows if it really is true, were very surprised that he didn't play in Game 6 when he had his rib contusion. When it's win or go home, you put it all on the line. And it's something that we always question from DeAndre Ayton, unfortunately. Now, let's take a step back once again. Let's give our thanks. I'm the guy to do it, right? You guys always know I'm the one who's like, yeah, let's give him some props. We don't get to the NBA Finals without his 2-month performance in 2021, where he really turned it on. He saw what kind of a dominant force he could be. But then he just never got it back. And it was because of all of the other extracurricular nonsense that continued to go on off the court, unfortunately. And it's going to become one of the biggest what ifs in obviously Phoenix Suns history, but maybe Arizona sports history, for the potential that he couldn't hit of being the first number one overall pick for the longest tenured franchise in our state. I'm disappointed at the end of the day, but Chris, I got to pass it over to you because I got to get some more of your thoughts before maybe we can look at some of these other guys. But I want to echo what you said last night too. I got mixed emotions, and I'm sad to see him go at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, it is. I think it's bittersweet for me for sure because I wanted to always see Deandre Ayton be successful and live up to his potential. And the guy that we thought we were getting when we took him number 1 overall in the draft, and it was a pretty loaded draft. I mean, you're looking at guys like Tallman said of Luka Doncic, but you also have Trae Young. Funny, Marvin Bagley the third was taken with the number 2 overall pick. And I think I'm forgetting a few names in that draft that turned out to be pretty.
Jaren Jackson
Jr. Yeah, yep. That's right. Another guy that's been doing really well with Memphis, was a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. Or did he win Defensive Player of the Year?
Defensive Player of the Year, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other big one, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
And Shai Gilgeous, I think, would have been the one that I would have really liked to see, seeing as how he's doing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. But it's something that we can't sit here and continue to ask ourselves all these what-if questions, because at the time, we had Devin Booker, who was a budding superstar at the guard position, and we knew we wanted a big guy to pair with him. And at the time, if I'm choosing between DeAndre Ayton and Jaren Jackson Jr., it would have to be DeAndre Ayton. And I don't know that, you know, a Doncic Booker experiment would work very well. I don't know about Trae Young. All three of those guys are very ball dominant. And yeah, DA wants the ball, but he's not a ball handler. I think, like you're saying Tallman, he wanted to be the 4th guy, and it wouldn't be a trio, right? It'd be like a quattro, a quad.
Close enough.
Something like that.
Yeah, just roll with it.
Yeah. So, and I was excited to see that, though, and especially, Mike, like we talked about last night, like how him and Eric Gordon were playing for the Bohemian national team in the FIBA League, then that tournament this summer. A lot of good reports coming out about him and his time there and how motivated he was, and all these. I mean, all the news is always fluff in the off season, right? But it really added to my optimism that, oh man, maybe he could be a good, you know, fourth, fourth piece on this team, especially as guys kind of find their footing and what their role is going to be. It seems like Kevin Durant isn't necessarily trying to be the dominant scorer he's been his whole career. He's willing to play a role more or less. And I think if I had to bet on it, Bradley Beal's probably in a similar situation where, like, if he's not putting up 25 a night, he's not going to be mad about it. If he gets 10, 15 and we win, I'm sure he's going to be just fine, where Devin Booker is going to be out there center stage putting up 20 to 30 points every single game, night in and night out. And I think there was room for DeAndre Ayton in there. And that's the difference, though. With the Suns, we're looking at him probably scoring 10 points, and you would hope 10 to 15 rebounds a night. But with Portland, him and Scoot Henderson, it's probably going to be him scoring if he's, you know, continuing his trajectory and actually living up to his expectations, which is something we always hoped here for a long time. But I think DeAndre Ayton's looking at 20 and 10 every night in Portland.
He's going to end up with what we always wanted from him,
right?
Right? Because he's going to have plenty of opportunities. But here's the other thing, right? I love what Tallman talked about with Mikal Bridges. He goes to New York, continues his great transcendent season, has some crazy outscoring, you know, nights where he scores over 45. What happens to the Brooklyn Nets? They barely scrape into the playoffs, and then they get swept by the Philadelphia 76ers. I'd be surprised if the Portland Trailblazers make the playoffs within the next 3 years, guys. DeAndre Ayton's going to get all these numbers. He's going to finally get what he wanted, but it's going to be in a losing environment.
Yeah.
And that's what he proved that was more important to him at the start of his career than understanding what the culture we're trying to do is right now, is to bring a championship to a franchise that has never won ever in 50 plus years of being in the Valley. We are pulling out all the damn stops to do whatever we can. And if you're not ready to step aboard and fill that role, I don't care if you were a number 1 pick, you're expendable. And that's what happened with DeAndre Ayton. No matter with the exciting coaching hire, Frank Vogel, to really pull out the defensive capability of DeAndre Ayton, which it would have been amazing, and probably would have, if he could have played to his potential just on that end and still averaged 14 points, 10 boards, that's a step up in your career. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you guys, but that could almost make the max money worth what we were going to have to pay for him if you can get a title and if he can continue that moving forward. But there was just too many questions about the motor, too many questions about the energy, and it started rubbing. Like, this is the big thing about this, guys. There's no way that the Phoenix Suns make this trade without the okay from Devin Booker and Kevin Durant.
Absolutely.
100%. You can't look any person in the face and say that the faces of your franchise were blindsided about this kind of thing. You know, like when we were talking about how Chris Paul finds out that he gets a call on a flight that he's been traded.
Yeah.
You know who knew about it before Chris Paul? Devin Booker did. Kevin Durant did. Mm-hmm. Those guys, that's just the NBA nowadays. If you're a top 20, top 10 player, you're helping build rosters. That's what it comes down to. Yeah. And he rubbed those guys the wrong way where it was time to go, no matter what we might have been able to get out of them.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you had something to say about it.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, Mike, you're absolutely right. And then you just wanted. It felt like we were just sitting there waiting. When's he going to turn? When is he going to reach his ceiling? When is he going to reach his ceiling? And everyone's going to bring up, well, we don't get to the finals unless we had DA, right? Because DA was incredible on that finals run. But what happened after that finals run? He was never playoff DA, right? That he never got back to that same level. And like you mentioned, the motor just disappeared. Not playing in a game 6 because you have a contusion or a bruised chest or something. I mean,
rib contusion, yeah, something
that
like
is
that.
just ridiculous.
On his right side, I think.
I mean, everything's on the line. Why do you think Booker walked out after that final playoff loss and he didn't talk to anybody? He went dead silent. You heard nothing from him after that for a good amount of time. I mean, he was frustrated. He was fed up. And that comes right back to the fact of, Devin Booker probably didn't orchestrate it. I don't want to sit here and say the inmates are running the prison. Devin Booker doesn't cut people, but he definitely plays a huge role into it. You know, they're going to ask him what he's thinking or how, you know, what do you want to see happen? Who do you want around? You know, we're basing this around Booker and Durant, so of course they have a huge say in it.
Yeah, it's definitely not like the way LeBron James handles it.
Well, he's like a player coach. I mean,
well,
it's a different level for sure when you're going to talk about LeBron.
I remember seeing on a podcast a long while back, probably a couple of years at this point, I don't remember which one, but Kevin Durant was on it, and he was talking about how he wanted to be involved at the highest levels of the decision-making process because he felt like he had earned that as being a star player. And I can't remember, because help me out here, Mike, he went from Oklahoma City to Golden State to New York. Those are the only 3 teams he's played on?
Brooklyn, yep.
To Brooklyn, yeah. Yep. So I think it was, I can't remember. I can't remember for sure, but I think he was saying he didn't quite have that in Oklahoma City. So that's what kind of really made his decision to go to the Warriors, like, all of that more important, and then so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, like, that's all that's to say, like, I think you're absolutely right, Mike. Like, Booker and KD were definitely in that conversation and in that decision-making process for making those moves. Kevin Durant seems really happy here, and I really like the friendship with him and Devin Booker. You see them doing a lot of stuff off the court together, which goes back to what I was talking about with DeAndre Ayton and all this stuff he did in the offseason. I'm pretty sure he was at a couple workouts with those guys as well, and that's what is kind of a little bit heartbreaking about it, and like is like, man, what could have been, but that's without having seen what product we're putting out here on the floor.
Yeah, you say what could have been. I mean, Chris Paul tried. I mean, how much frustration do you think Chris Paul had trying to get through to DeAndre Ayton? I mean, because Chris Paul's got that reputation. He's not well liked around the league because he's annoying, right? He's not a dirty player, but he's annoying, right? He does those flail fouls.
Depends on who you ask, but
yeah. But he talks a lot of shit, right? So imagine him, how much he was all over DA, trying to get a rise out of DA, trying to get him mad, like the water boy, right? Yeah, water sucks, man. Like, why couldn't DA just slam the ball? Why couldn't he could never get to that level. And if anyone was going to get out of him, it was Chris Paul. Monty Williams gave up. He said, I'm done. You know, and you could tell. I mean, he had, going back to, oh my God, I haven't talked to my coach in 3 months.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of the way Monty Williams handled all that.
That was kind of ridiculous.
It was all handled incorrectly by every party, and that's why you saw this team take steps back over the past 2 seasons, and unfortunately find a demise in probably 2 of the worst playoff losses, definitely in franchise history, but maybe in NBA history too, with that ridiculous 30-point blowout against Dallas and then to just absolutely falter and fold away to Denver last season. I mean, that was always going to be a tough task last year just with the firepower that we had at that point, but that's another reason probably why we see the only player that is still on this team from 2021 is Devin Booker, because you can't have 2 playoff exits with some of the worst basketball ever and just think, okay, yeah, we're going to be able to get it. We're going to be able to course correct this time. You know, like it's been a whole entire culture shock and change, similar to what's been happening with the Arizona Cardinals. Thankfully for Phoenix Suns fans, we've been good during that time frame where we're going out of the dark ages of the Cardinals from Cliff Kingsbury winning 4 games, but you add a complete new owner. You still have your same GM, but then you change coaching staffs completely, and you basically change your core.
New owner. Even
Matt Ispia, who's giving out freaking free TV rabbit ears for anybody who wants to watch games. Awesome. Dude, that's gangster,
that's
isn't
so
that?
Cool.
I'm so glad that TV deal went through too, and that's a great point, like the Ispia effect. And I want to have a broader conversation at some point about how sustainable this is all going to be. I mean, especially as we continue to exceed the salary cap and how short the window is looking, but. With still talking about this trade and DA going and us now having Jusuf Nurkic, Tallman, I know you're not very familiar with Nurkic, and I just wanted to ask you because we talked about it a bit last night, and Nico brought up a great point that it was better that they'd made this move now before the season started rather than waiting to see what they could get for Deandre Ayton near the trade deadline. To give these guys a chance to learn how to play together, go through those growing pains of figuring out who's going to have the ball and who's going to play what role. Would you agree with that it is better that we did the move now rather than and maybe getting a greater return near the deadline? I know that's all hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to see DA put up some numbers to get a greater return than that through the start of the season. But no, obviously, I mean, you got to right now was the perfect timing. I'm sure you guys probably. That's probably what you said. Right now was perfect, right? Yeah. So you could build, you could gel together through the preseason and all that. Absolutely. I mean, he didn't want to be here anyway, so get rid of him. That happened. So bring in guys that want to be here, that want to be part of the winning culture, that are going to work towards that same goal of winning the championship. Which, I mean, looking at that's what we're going to do. I mean, I will tell you right now, I put anyone on paper right now. Obviously, we haven't seen live basketball. Put our roster against anybody else, the depth that we have, which what happened last year, we had no depth, right? And then you mentioned Booker being the only guy from the finals run. I mean, we only have 6 people from last year still on the roster, 6 or 7 players, right? So talk about even a minor roster turnover. But I think the timing was great. And honestly, like I said to start, I mean, you can't compare Nurkic. Say it again.
Nurkic.
You'll
get it.
You can't compare Nurkic and DA just one-on-one, but I mean, looking at Nasir Little, I mean, he hasn't proven a lot, but he's a young player and he's got a lot of upside. He's a good rotational player. And then you go to Grayson Allen, the guy that's got a very punchable face, and it's one of those guys that you hate them until they're on your team. And
the Pat Bev effect.
Yeah, there you go. So, and I mean, the guy can drill some threes. I mean, he's a good wing. So, I think we got exactly what we needed in return to get rid of somebody that didn't want to be here, didn't want to be part of the process, and the timing was perfect because you don't want to run into the same thing where Durant comes in. He only plays 8 regular season games with us.
Something like that.
It was like 8 or 10. I can't remember.
I think it was 8 because he also twisted his ankle and was out for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Oh,
so now we get to be together as a core, and man, I feel for Vogel right now. He's got to work out those rotations, man. I don't know what he's going to do. It's going to be interesting to see, and it's going to be fun to watch too.
Yeah, I think hindsight's always going to be 20/20 in regard to bringing in pieces, right? The best time is probably early off season, right? Because all the time this extra time that these guys have been spending together, we saw them in Palo Alto or California, and 5 or 6 of the guys are all working together in the off season and gaining that camaraderie before training camp. But they did do the best that they could to get these guys in before training camp, right? Because that's when the real work really starts. You start to get your offensive sets going a little bit more. You flesh out those rotations. You're playing fives. You're getting all the running done, and you're getting really cohesive units working together early. But man, at the end of the day, I am excited for the pieces that they did bring in, because it does bolster a little bit more perimeter defense, like we said, with Grayson Allen and Nasir Little. I think he's still the biggest question mark to me, even though he's a fifth-year pro. Never really got over 18 minutes a game, but has shown some flashes from outside. And like we said, Grayson Allen is another lethal outside shooter, 47% from the corners and 40% overall. And then I think the biggest thing that has rubbed people the wrong way is the main piece that was brought back was Yusuf Nurkic, right? Last year only played 52 games, averaged 13.3 points and 9.1 rebounds, which is 3 points less than DA and a rebound and a half less. But we're not going to be asking as much as we would have from DA, especially with the pieces that you already brought in, the high regard for Drew Eubanks, the next steps that Bol Bol has taken, and we'll see if Chimezie Metu gets a chance. Like, this is all by committee for the way that this roster has been built, because like we said last night too, we know some of these guys are going to get hurt. So when you have solid backups like this, you're going to be able to withstand an entire regular season and hopefully have one of those top 3 seeds, so you have home court advantage, because that's what this team is going to need. We're going to need that home court advantage.
Yeah, no, I think it's important that if we do have the run we expect, that we should finish with a high seed. I know I did kind of say last night that as long as we make it into the playoffs with a decent seed, that we would have a chance, as long as we were able to get these guys enough games together to kind of flesh out what the rotation's going to look like, who's going to be handling the ball, doing the scoring. I am a little nervous. I know I did kind of allude also to the fact that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, when they played together last season, kind of ended up doing more ISO ball than team ball, and it kind of worked out in some games and then not so much in other situations. Yusuf Nurkic, though, I am going to be curious to see. It seems like he will be more committed to playing the role that's expected of him than Deandre Ayton would have been. He does have similar, criticisms of him about having not necessarily the highest motor, sometimes getting complacent and not necessarily hustling as hard or finishing out as strong as he can. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. It's without a doubt he'll find himself in the starting rotation at center, which will be aside from Booker, Beal, and Durant. Mike, who would you think at this point would you put in the 5th starting position there? Is it Josh Okogie? Is it Bates Diop, Drew Eubanks? You got, and that's like, I'm looking at the roster here. It's deep. Like, we got a lot of guys to choose from, and I think that 5th spot could be something that takes some time to flesh out.
Yeah, you got a lot of different interchangeable pieces too, and like we said with these injuries, we're going to see some other guys that we probably wouldn't have thought in that starting lineup start more games than you would have thought they would this season. I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards Bates Diop, just with his overall size. I'd love to keep Kevin Durant at the 3 and play undersized with Bates Diop at the 4. And if you roll with Nurkic at the 5, you can get those mismatches from Kevin Durant staying at the 3 and get him a little bit more off ball. Talking defensively too, he can roll down. He has such great length. He can help contest at the rim as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Josh Okogie, because it's always good to have a strong defensive presence out there who can take the main scorer. If Stephen Curry comes out, if now Dame comes out with the Bucks, Luka Doncic, you give him those opportunities to guard those guys. But I also think Devin Booker is trying to take that role on this season and really cement himself as a superstar. Like, he wants those challenges. So if that's going to be the case, specifically on the defensive end, then I'd probably roll with Bates Diop, just with the size when it comes down to that.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I could see that. I think it's, for me, my money, it is between him and Okogie. I've been seeing online, I think people are rooting towards Okogie, but I think it's just it might even depend on the matchups any given night. Especially as they try and figure it out. Tallman, just as it relates to the roster here, we've mentioned the incredible depth and kind of what this fifth spot in the rotation will look like. How deep do you think Frank Vogel will go on just like a regular night? Do you think he'll keep it like a tight 8 players or expand out to using like a full 10 or 11 guys on any given night?
I bet you we see a full 10. I mean, just starting with the question marks at who that fifth starter is going to be. I mean, they got flexibility. I mean, you got some good players that are sitting on you have some good players that are your 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th player on your roster, right? So the flexibility is going to be key for them. I bet you we see a couple different rotations until the playoffs. They're going to tighten it up, obviously. Like, that's what you do. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a 10 player usage. I'm leaning with Mike towards who that fifth's probably going to be. I'm thinking Diop. But I bet you we see that change a lot. Not a lot, but I'm sure there'll be a little Kogi mixed in there, and I bet you we'll see someone else come in.
Like along those lines, how much of these guys, I think that might be near the end of the bench, like Bull, Damian Lee, Drew Eubanks, how much of those guys, how much are we really going to see?
I think you're going to see more to start the season, just because with the high turnover and the amount of new faces that are here, and you have a brand new head coach. You learn things in practice, yes, but you learn the most during games, right? So guys are going to have to earn the trust of Frank Vogel when it comes down to it. So I'm with Tallman. I think it's going to be a minimum of 10. I think there might be times where we see 12 guys coming onto the floor for the Phoenix Suns early in this season.
Wow.
Just starting to see what best rotations go, who is going to take a step up, what best matchups you have. The beautiful thing is that you have a 3-headed monster, and you never have to have them, all of them, off at the floor at one time. So it's going to be very strategic in regard to, well, say Booker and Kevin Durant take a seat this time and it's Bradley Beal. Well, who fits well with him? You know, is that when you bring a Jordan Goodwin in to be the point guard, have Beal switch to the 2, maybe go a little bit smaller with Grayson Allen at the 3, then Bates Diop and Drew Eubanks. Like, that's going to be the fun side of this season for me, just trying to find those rotation pieces that fit well together. So I think you're going to see early more guys than you would imagine. And then after the play-in tournament, or maybe right before, things are going to tighten up. That's when you're seeing 9-man rotations, maybe 10. Some guys will maybe have gotten out of favor with Frank Vogel, and he's done with their shit early already, you know. So I would not be surprised to see that happen. And I think that's the best part about the game too, is early season. Yeah, you want to set a good precedence, but you also want to learn what you have. And you got to give guys those opportunities in game, because there's only so much that you can learn from having guys practice against the same guys every day, every week, right?
No, you're absolutely right. And Tallman, I'm sorry here. I think we're going to kind of transition here soon, but I did have one more question I wanted to ask Mike, just because it just popped into my brain, and I think it's really important. Looking at the roster, we talk about, again, the depth and all these names we have, and the deep rotations. We're probably going to go 10, 11, 12 men deep. Are you concerned that there's no true point guard on the roster right now?
It's always tough, right? But you know what's been the big narrative? We're transitioning to positionless basketball, right? I think if it's going to be successful, it's going to be with those 3 guys, right?
Yeah,
for a starting lineup with Bradley Beal, because we know, you know, the days of Point Book where we were scared of him being the facilitator, that was in 2017 when he was super young.
Yeah.
We didn't have core pieces around him, and we were struggling. Now, you know, you can go interchangeable with Beal and Booker, and Booker has proven himself to be an 8+ assist guy night in, night out, because his vision is that great. He's that smart with the basketball, and he makes the right decisions on a night in, night out basis. So I'd be okay with just rolling him at point guard right now, to be honest with you. Switch him to the 1, have Bradley Beal in the 2, get him on downhill attacking positions where he loves to do. He's also a great shooter as well. I'm not too worried when it comes down to that. They're so incredible on the offensive end. Those guys single-handedly, they're going to be able to figure it out and figure out a system that works the best for them. Now, like we said, it's going to take some time, right? Like anything does, any new system does, but I honestly not too worried about it, to be honest with you.
I'm not worried about it either. I mean, DA or no DA, I'm still super excited for this upcoming season and still optimistic, even with adding Nurkic and Allen, and just really curious to see how that's all going to shake out and what these rotations are going to look like. And believe me, fellas, we are going to keep close tabs on that and keep you guys updated with Phoenix Suns recaps every 2 weeks during the season, as we have with the Diamondbacks this season, and with the Arizona Cardinals we do one weekly because they don't play one game a week, so we can at least do that. But fellas, speaking of the Arizona Diamondbacks, we are sitting here watching their third to last game against the Houston Astros as we record this. They're currently down 2-0 going into the bottom of the eighth. Things aren't looking good, so it's not looking like the Dbacks will clinch their wild card spot tonight. And we are going to that game tomorrow. So Justin Verlander on the mound. Mike, do you like our odds?
I like our odds if Merrill Kelly is pitching tomorrow, which it probably looks like unless the Diamondbacks can make a rally. It's funny, you look at these guys, it's like looking in a mirror. Justin Verlander, 12-8 record this year with a 3.32 ERA. Merrill Kelly, 12-7 with a 3.38 ERA. There's nothing more that I would want to see than the Arizona Diamondbacks jumping into that damn pool, celebrating a playoff berth. The first time since 2017?
Something like that. Has it been that long? Wow.
Yeah, whenever we went.
We went to the game? I didn't.
No. We went to the preseason Suns game, and then we went to Friday front rows.
Oh yeah. Because I went to the wild card game against the Rockies, the Archie Bradley infamous double.
There you go.
That was around the same time, I'm pretty sure.
I think it was 2017. I was still at the Chandler Y. So good memories. That would just be so sweet to see them celebrate and be in the building with them after such an up and down season, from at one point being in first place in the NL West to wondering if we were even going to have a chance to sniff a wild card spot, to having the magic number be 1. And if we can be there and just feel that energy, man, that's all I want. So is it selfish to say that I hope they don't pull this out?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's we're confident that they can at least win one of these next 2 games, and better it be the one tomorrow. Great matchup potentially, and then like you're saying, like that's going to be a crazy celebration if they can clinch it at home on a Saturday night in Chase Field. Tallman, I see you're kind of struggling to breathe over there. I mean, are you getting excited at the prospect of Diamondbacks clinching a playoff spot?
Oh yes, very excited. I mean, if you go back and watch some of our recaps of the D-backs, I mean, we were just on this emotional roller coaster, just up and down. It was like, holy shit, we're doing it. Then it was like, I'm gonna bury this team right now and put the nail in the coffin. We went through everything. We should probably go see a therapist.
We were like, I don't want Brandon Pfaadt on the mound ever again.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh my god, he needs to be the third pitcher now.
It is. It's just unbelievable, the ride that we've been on. And we're at the point now, it's playoff or bust. But because if we for some crazy reason don't make the wild card, then this season has just been an absolute failure. Just going through how we started out the season, first in the division, and then how we rebounded from that awful month span where we just couldn't do anything right. But thankfully for us, we're coming into today with a 98% chance to make the wild card. So it's looking pretty good for us. So we pull off one win, and we're in. We have the tiebreaker with the Cubs. Cubs keep losing. That's great. So we don't even have to worry about that. Marlins can win out. They can win out as long as the Reds don't win out. We're going to be in there, okay? So we win one. It's going to be tomorrow when we're there watching, and it's going to be fun. I mean, we can't. Merrill Kelly's going to help us pull it off. We're going to get some run support, and we're going to win tomorrow. We're going to book that first playoff berth since 2017, and it was 2017.
Wow. That would be absolutely incredible. Do you guys any of you know? I'm legitimately asking. I don't know who would we take on in the first round if we clinch.
So so the Phillies already clinched the top wild card spot.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get the second wild card spot, we're going to be playing the Phillies. If we get the third spot, we play the Brewers. So then that's a whole nother conversation of which team would you rather play. So how does the Dbacks line up against the Phillies? The Phillies have a stacked lineup. I mean, they have some big names. They have some firepower in that lineup. Where it's the bats that scare me with the Phillies, not so much the pitching. Then you turn it over, it's like a double-edged sword. Okay, would you rather deal with the explosive bats or would you rather deal with good pitching? So then you go over to the Brewers. The Brewers are the opposite of the Phillies. They have a good pitching rotation, and I think we match up better with the Brewers. But then you sit here, if we clinch right now, say tonight or tomorrow, I mean, there's a chance we could get that third spot. But I don't know. I mean, it's professional sports. I mean, if we win tonight, they would probably pull Merrill Kelly. I mean, I can't imagine you would roll Merrill Kelly out look up when the wild card series starts. It's next week. It's pretty quick. So then if Merrill goes tomorrow or Sunday, then he's going to miss that whole series, or he's going to pitch the third game of that series if it comes to that. So if we have a chance to not pitch Merrill tomorrow, we're not going to. And there's a chance if all the cards fall the right way that we could be in that third spot and we could match up with the Brewers. But either way, I mean, you get to the playoffs, you get to the postseason to play the best teams. So if it comes down to the Phillies, I mean, we matched up with them earlier in the season and it wasn't that pretty. I know they beat the hell out of Brandon Pfaadt when he first got his first couple starts, and like I said, I a little scared to play the Phillies, but I'd take anything. I'd take any wild card game, any playoff game right now.
Yeah, honestly, just making it there and being able to be a part of it, and it's not just a 1-game wild card anymore. I think it's a 3-game series. Yeah, thank goodness. So we'll at least have a fighting chance if we can make it. And I really have high hopes and belief that we will make it. But man, how about the Phillies? They did really turn it on. They started the season without Bryce Harper, and then Trey Turner wasn't quite himself. Some of the other pieces, it took them a while to get rolling, but they found themselves really finding their stride in the latter half of the season. And same with the Milwaukee Brewers, to be honest. Like around the trade deadline, they were kind of barely scraping the 1-2 spot in their division, and now they have a good, I think, 7 or 8 game lead on the Cincinnati Reds, and that's another team that is kind of scraping, trying to get that wild card spot. It's just, I don't think we've ever seen a wild card finish quite like this, where it's literally coming down to the last couple days of the season, and there's just a handful of teams really fighting and scraping, trying to get in there. It adds another whole layer to all of it, and now we see here in the bottom of the 8th, Mike, there's 2 on, 2 out. Diamondbacks are trying to have a comeback. They could take the lead with one swing of the bat here. But I know we've already said selfishly we kind of want to see tomorrow in that game. But like pitching wise, like how do you feel about our chances in a potential playoff series with kind of our revolving door in the pitching rotation, if you will? Like our only, I think, 3 down pat guys right now are Gallen, Kelly, and Pfaadt, and that's like Cody was saying, we come a long way from not really liking Pfaadt so much to now rooting for him and hoping he's that next guy up.
Well, I think you should have confidence, especially the way that Brandon Pfaadt has pitched the past month and a half. Ever since his second call up, he's really put the pedal to the metal and showed that he's ready to be a big league pitcher. I mean, he's still a young guy and still working some kinks out, but he's had some solid outings. The last time had 5 2/3 against the Chicago White Sox. Yes, it was the White Sox, but you play who you play, and you got to pitch consistently, and that's what he's done over his last 6 starts. And then you talk about the top of our rotation with Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. I mean, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I think when you look at it, yes, Zach Gallen has a better record with 17-8, but hasn't Merrill Kelly been more of a consistent pitcher this season? It seems like he's had his ups and downs, but I'd say over the past 2 months, Zach Gallen is still trying to kind of figure it out. But if you have those top 3 guys going in a 3-game series, I still like your chances. Anything goes at that point.
Yeah, I'm with you, but the Gallen Kelly comparison, I mean, you got to remember how Gallen started this season. I mean, it wasn't until the last month and a half where he wasn't a front runner to win the Cy Young, and he's just struggled. His last start was good, but I mean, think about the three starts before the last one. Within his last 4 starts, I mean, he's been a little shaky. So, and then you got to remember, Merrill Kelly's been he was dealing with those cramps. You know, he would get to the 5th, the 6th inning, and he would just start cramping up. Where after the game, he'd talk where he couldn't even open his hand. He was cramping so hard, and he had to exit all those games early. So you just got to hope that this guy is staying hydrated, eating some bananas, and you know, he's. I'm not going to say he's old. He's not, because I think you're probably older than him, Mike.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry, but I mean, Gallen recently has been shaky, and then you talk about Gallen's pitching tonight, and then look up when's that next wild card game, or excuse me, not next. When does it start?
I think it starts this week, like Thursday or Friday of this coming week.
That should be enough time for whoever needs to start to get enough rest, though, right? Even if Merrill Kelly pitches on tomorrow,
yeah.
If he has to go game 2 and it's Friday night, that's enough rest.
Yeah, but while you look that up,
no, so it's the first game's on Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday. Wow, even quicker. Damn.
Yeah, okay. so it's on Tuesday. So we're starting off the series with probably Brandon Pfaadt, and then, I mean, it's. Okay, so we make it to the wild card. It's a win. It's a win in my book.
You had to start Gallen tonight. I think you have. If we don't win tonight, we have to start Kelly tomorrow.
Absolutely, you got to get in because nothing's guaranteed right now.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of people out there saying, "Well, you just roll the dice." I mean, you have a pretty good chance of making it no matter what. Do you want to sit Merrill, keep him to start the series, which would be great to start off with him, but. I don't know, man. We're gonna come into the wild card series, and the pitching is gonna be the main focus. And we're right now how it sits. I mean, how it's lined up with our rotation. I mean, we might have Gallen starting pretty quick, not having his full rest, and then Kelly coming up if he starts tomorrow, pitching that 3rd game if necessary. But then you think about the rest of the rotation. And we already talked about Gallen being shaky. Kelly's cramping up. So if these guys can't figure it out here and show up, it's going to be a tough role for us. I mean, we just DFA'd Zach Davies, and right now we don't have a clear-cut 5th starter in that rotation. So once we if we even get the chance, which is we're going to take it one step at a time. Even if we get the chance to get to a 7-game series. I mean, it's going to be a tough battle for them, whoever they match up with. They're going to be matching up with the best teams in baseball, and we're going to get pitched out of every single game. I mean, you get rid of Zach Davies, and you think about the last 5 games that Zach Davies started, we won that game, okay? His last 4, he only pitched 3 or 4 innings, and he got absolutely shelled. And the only reason we won those games is because we had that bat support. We came out, and we scored several runs, and we won. If you go and look back, I mean, we won one of them 12-4. Another one we scored like 15 runs. So what we're going to rely on if we have any chance in the playoffs is those bats need to be alive, and they need to be coming, and we need to be aggressive on the base pass, and we need to be scoring runs, or we have absolutely no chance. Doesn't matter who we play, Phillies or Brewers, we have no chance because we are talking about 2 shaky starters, as in our 1-2 and Gallen and Kelly, after what we've seen the past month. And if we don't get the bats alive and rely on our offense, I mean, it's going to be tough sledding for us.
Yeah. The pitching has definitely been under a microscope, but you're absolutely right. It's going to come down to the bats because those are what was carrying us early in this season and got us to the success and to the point where we thought we could be a playoff team and be in this conversation. And now we find ourselves here, and the bats are just still not consistent. We can criticize the pitching rotation and the support all we want, but the bats are what's really going to win us games because even a couple, weeks or a month or so ago when Brandon Pfaadt went out there and had an incredible start. The bats didn't do anything to help him out. And same in this game. We're looking at 2-0 in the 9th inning. The Diamondbacks haven't put up a single run. Yeah, they've gotten some hits. They've gotten some runners to third, but they haven't been able to bring any of those runs across. And that's what is really making the difference. I mean, I hate to sound stupid because that's obviously the point of the game and how you win is by getting runs across the plate. But if you can't do that, it really takes away from anything that the pitcher is doing on the other side of the ball. I don't want to be pessimistic and turn this whole train of optimism around here, Mike, but there's a very real possibility that we get swept by the Astros and we don't make the playoffs. Is the season still a success if we don't make the playoffs?
We've had these conversations before, and I'm a big proponent about the expectations have to change as a season moves on, right? We start this season and we say, what's going to be a success if we go over 500? Okay, we beat that. But when you're talking about a team that was in first place for at least a month, maybe over a month, granted it was early in the season, but showed a lot of promise. Zach Gallen was an early Cy Young favorite. And then you have a tumultuous July, but then course correct and find yourself with a possibility to win. And it comes down to a magic number of 1. If you can't scrape out 1 win against the Houston Astros, yeah, it's kind of a failure, right? You're taking the right steps as an organization to move forward. You're excited about the possibilities. Corbin Carroll continuing to show that he's an all-star, all-stud.
A historic rookie year.
Giving Jordan Lawler a full season opportunity to find his way in our system. Moving pieces around, maybe gaining more pitching capital. If Tommy Pham really is a guy and you want to see if you can get rid of Jake McCarthy for some more added pitching. The other thing we have to remember too is like these past 3 weeks are one of our biggest question marks this whole season was the bullpen as well. And they haven't been the problem. So that's why you look at it as like, well, we know what our starting pitchers, the top 3 guys, they have been shaky, but I like our chances in a 3-game series to start to see if you can actually get into the full dance, right? But this is a great question for you guys too. You remember the days in the past where once it became playoffs, guys are pitching on short rest. Like Randy Johnson's pitching game 1, game 4, and game 7. Is that just completely out the window nowadays? Like guys aren't okay with pitching on short rest because it is the playoffs, because it is time to win? Is that where we've gotten in baseball?
No, it's not. It's still like that. I mean, because you're talking about Randy Johnson. That was what in the World Series. Yeah. So I mean,
well, that was that whole playoff series. Him and Kurt Schilling were always pitching on short rest. It was 1-4, 2-5. They got at least 2 starts within a 7-game series. And if you don't have a solidified 5th-game starter, why are you going to go roll out a bullpen game with Bryce Jarvis? Why aren't you going to start Zach Gallen in game 4?
You're definitely going to. I mean, you would hope that we're going to, but then you got to think about. I mean, are these guys gassed? I mean, like I already talked about Merrill Kelly and his cramping. I mean, imagine this dude going out pitching every 4 days, pitching trying to get us through 7 innings. I mean, it's going to be tough for them. But you're right. I think they're going to have to do that because, and you mentioned the bullpen. It's crazy how it's just totally flipped. At the beginning of the year, we're like, oh, our starting pitching's decent. We have 2 aces, and our bullpen just pisses away every lead that we have every single game. And it's kind of flipped a little bit, where now we're kind of worried about the starting pitching. But I mean, you're right, Mike. I'd like to see. I mean, I'm totally in it. We're gonna make it. I mean, like I said, they were giving us a 97-point-something% chance to make the wild card. Those are some good odds. You know, I'm a betting man, so I'm going to be betting on those odds right there. So I don't see a day where we don't make it. And then back to your main question, Chris, I already touched on it. It's a total failure if we don't make it.
And so you're with Mike, okay?
Yeah, it's a total failure.
You have to change expectations, man.
Yeah, I mean, because your expectations, like you said, it changed how this year was the trajectory that you were on. It has to change your expectations because you can't sit there. I mean, we were 15, 16 games above 500 at one point, and we were just rolling. We were blowing people out. People would go up by 2 runs. We'd clap back, tie the game, or we'd be up by 1. I mean, we were the answer backs for a reason. and it would just be a total failure, and it'd be horrible to see us not make it. I mean, obviously we're talking about the Major League Baseball is probably loving this fight of all these terrible teams, and I call them terrible, all these 500 or couple over 500 teams fighting for these last wild card spots, because of that extended playoff. But I don't think we really have a chance once we get in. But it'd be incredible to see us play some meaningful baseball in the month of October.
Yeah, the whole season success comes from a postseason berth. Whatever happens after that, we live with that and we move forward, and we're excited about where we are as Arizona Diamondbacks fans, right? But to go back to your last point, Chris, could we get swept by the Astros? Anything is possible, but you also have to look at the standings for them in the AL. Seattle is up 8-0 against the Rangers right now in the bottom of the 5th. If Seattle wins and Houston wins, they're still only a game up for that last wild card spot in the AL. So Houston is not going to make this easy for the Diamondbacks because they have the same fight on their hands right now. So they're not going to lie down. You know, the way that we were talking about, if we were to win tonight, do you pitch Merrill Kelly tomorrow? That's a lay down move because you're playing for the next step, right? Houston is going to have to fight through this entire series to make sure that they're solidified to even get to that final spot. Whereas at least right now we have some wiggle room with this number 2 spot. So this is going to be a tough one, man. And right now it looks like there's one out. We got one on in the bottom of the 9th. Let's see if there's some magic here.
Yeah, I mean, and Lourdes Gurriel here is at the plate with one out, and he's swinging for the fences. He took a big whiff at a ball that was low. There's a guy on first, so I can tell he wants to hit him with the equalizer here and really get it going. But yeah, I think you're right. I didn't know that about maybe I should be more in tune with it, but I didn't know the Astros were also in a fight for their wild card spot also. So that's an extra added layer of the competition here. So it's already like a playoff atmosphere. I mean, I don't think I've watched a Diamondbacks game more intently in this season than I have right now. And I've watched a fair amount of my Diamondbacks games. But yeah, that's the beautiful thing about baseball though, Tallman, is because I tend to kind of agree with you in the fact that I don't have the highest hopes for the Diamondbacks if they and when they make it to the postseason. How deep of a run they're going to be able to make? Will they be able to get out of the wild card? If they do that, how competitive would they be in the next series? But going back to what I was saying, that's the beautiful thing about baseball is because your team can get hot at the right time, and like it kind of has ebbed and flowed for us throughout the whole season. All it takes is us hitting one of those hot streaks, one of those upward swings, and before you know it, we are beating teams that we shouldn't be beating, and you can ride that wave a pretty long way, especially in the postseason. I mean, you were even saying, I don't remember if it was on the mic or not, but if the Kansas City Royals can win a World Series, why not us? I mean, that's the biggest question, right? Why not us?
No, you're right, and that's just the nature of baseball. I mean, it's people don't understand how much of a mental game it is, and when your team's hot, I mean, your team's hot, and then you think about. I just watched him whiff on that, and I totally lost my train of thought.
Yeah, Gurriel struck out, so there's 2 outs, and yeah, it's looking bleak. But you were saying about just having anything could happen with baseball.
No,
right?
I got it. So yeah, and the one thing that the Dbacks got going for them, I mean, we don't hit a lot of home runs. Like that's not who we are as a team. You know, we're that scrappy team. We're the team that's going to pull a double steal and make you throw the baseball around the diamond like you're in 5th grade in Little League, like what we did to the Giants, right? And we totally just pissed on any aspirations that they had to make any type of wild card run. So that's the thing about the Diamondbacks is if we get hot at the right time, we're going to be that team that nobody wants to play, right? Because we have speed in our team, and we can drop a 5-run inning on you out of nowhere, and you're like, holy shit, what happened there? You know, with McCarthy and Thomas and Carroll, I mean, the speed is just real. And then we've had some timely hitting as well. I mean, talk about some of the stuff. Seems like every time Pham gets a hit, it's in the most crucial time of the game. So If we can get hot, if we can find some lightning in a bottle here going into the wild card, if we can get some quality starts out of Kelly and out of Gallen, and see if Fott can shine on the brightest stage or on the biggest stage he's ever been on, I mean, we could surprise some people. We could. Like I said, we're going to be that team that no one wants to play. We really are, because we can score. We can tack on runs. It's like it's almost like it's contagious with us. We can go no runs for 5 innings, and in the 6th inning, we score 6 runs. It's just like that's kind of how this team is. It's just contagious, and everyone just feeds off each other, and it's crazy the camaraderie in that locker in that
clubhouse.
In the clubhouse. I was going to call it a locker room.
The camaraderie in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, it's real. I mean, these guys, you think about a lot of young guys here. Oh, my God. Get out. Get out. Oh,
he died.
God,
he died.
Right there.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm so
Did we get one across?
We did. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Wow. All right. So,
Gabriel Moreno with a 2-out double that scored the runner from first. The outfielder almost broke his neck trying to go up and get that one.
How did that not get out of the ballpark?
Oh, my God. Absolutely incredible. Tallman, what you were saying, though, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here, and believe that we are going to keep tabs on that. Like I said, hopefully if we can win and make the playoffs, we'll do, I don't know if I mentioned it, actually. We're going to do game-by-game recaps of the Diamondbacks postseason. And we also have the Diamondbacks bi-weekly recap coming up this Wednesday, and it'll be kind of like a year-end kind of recap. We didn't do one this last week, so we're going on 3 weeks instead of 2. Don't judge us. Don't judge us, guys. Come on. But we got plenty more to talk about, fellas. And before we get into that, I think we got to just mention that the final score of the Diamondbacks game, 2-1. When you're listening to this, you probably already know that, but we witnessed it live while we record this podcast. Made it exciting there in the bottom of the 9th. We're able to get a run across. Cody's favorite Diamondback, Jace Peterson, just not able to get it done. But that's okay, because as Michael Benjamin said, we're going to be able to see them jump in the pool tomorrow. But fellas, there's, I think, one last Valley sports team we need to talk about before we conclude this September recording of the Heat Check podcast, and that is the Arizona Cardinals. We saved the best for last, boys. They were able to get a win over the Dallas Cowboys. What was the final score there? 28? 28-16?
There it is.
That is right. A 12-point double-digit victory at State Farm Stadium, so that was huge. We've kind of struggled to perform there in recent months, but now we have the San Francisco Giants coming up this week. Brock Purdy.
You said San Francisco
Party
Giants.
darty.
San Francisco Giants. San Francisco 49ers.
You all knew what he meant.
Yeah.
It's all the same. But no, Brock Purdy is picked up right where he left off last year, and he's just been an absolute stud. Shout out to the hometown boy. Tallman and I met the dude out in the wild, and he's a good guy. Was able to, not able to, but willing to step aside and take a picture with us. So I'm not saying I'm rooting for the Niners, guys, because clearly I would much rather the Cardinals win. But Brock Purdy, good guy, makes it hard to hate the Niners. Kind of feel that way about Christian McCaffrey too. Like, how could you hate Christian McCaffrey?
Hate him.
You hate him?
Easy.
Hate.
Well, not to derail the conversation, but again, I should hate all LA teams without any type of reservation. But
What about San Francisco?
San Francisco? Not as much hate. Because I was thinking, the guy I was thinking about was Freddie Freeman on the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you hate Freddie Freeman?
Yeah, it's hard
Hate
to
him.
hate Freeman.
Mike just
Hate.
Mike's the true-blooded Valley sports fan. No, I'm not. That's the thing, though. I'm saying I'm never gonna root for the Dodgers. Never gonna root for the 49ers. But like player-wise, like I don't mind seeing Purdy have success. I don't mind seeing Freddie Freeman have success. I just hope that the Diamondbacks have more success and that the Cardinals have more success. That derailed the whole conversation. But basically, what I wanted to bring you in here on, Tallman, and give you the floor first is we beat the Cowboys, huge underdogs in that one. Now, again, massive underdogs against the 49ers in an away game. Do you think we have a chance to get the upset again in this one?
Man, that is a loaded question. Starting with the Cowboys, I mean, we shocked the world. I mean, we we are no longer, look at some power rankings, we are no longer even close to being the worst team in the NFL right now. I mean, there's 3 or 4 teams that are 0-3, so we are exceeding expectations right now, which is great. And that's not even thinking about how we could have won week 1, and we were up 20-0 at halftime in week 2. So we could easily be talking about a 3-0 football team. But talking about the Cowboys here, yeah, we were heavy underdogs going into that game. But one thing that the Cowboys did was they thought that we were just going to be a small, tiny rock that they had to just step over in the game, right? They came out, they were not prepared, and they really fell into what you would call a trap game. So the Cardinals were a trap for them. They came out, they thought that they could just cruise to a W, and the Cardinals came out and they smacked them right in the mouth. And looking at coming up with the 49ers, I don't think we're going to have that same the same ability to come out and surprise somebody. I mean, you heard earlier in the week, Kyle Shanahan was talking about the Cardinals, and he actually called them a team that should be 3-0. So he's not going to be surprised at anything that we do. And we're not going to catch another team in an underdog matchup. We're not going to catch another team that's not prepared for what we're going to try to do. So do we have a chance to pull up the upset? No. I'm going to say no. I'm going to be I'm going to be a little mean right now, and just like I did the entire week going into the Cowboys game, I didn't think we had a chance to win that game. But with the 49ers, I think the 49ers are a better team. I think they're the best team in the NFC right now, because the Eagles just haven't really clicked into gear yet. So the 49ers right now are easily the best team in the NFC. But the key is going to be, can we run the ball on them? That's kind of what we did to Dallas. If you remember, James Conner had a day, so can James Conner have another day against the 49ers? It's going to be a tougher task, but I don't think we have a chance to win this game, but we could have a chance to keep it close and maybe even cover the spread, because we're 3-0 on the spread right now this year.
There he is, -14 right now on a lot of betting sites. Sprinkle that money line, but I would not be surprised to see the Arizona Cardinals lose this game by 10 points. When we're talking about the San Francisco 49ers, it's a different animal than the Dallas Cowboys right now.
Yeah.
I can't believe what Brock Purdy has been able to do after that UCL injury and step back in to start this season and just be an absolute animal, man. Already 4 touchdowns on the season. The guy I hate, Christian McCaffrey, #1 running back in the league right now behind that offensive line. 353 yards for 3 touchdowns. You know, looking at the injury list right now, Debo is still listed as questionable, but Ayuk was cleared. And now we got some new guys on the Cardinals. Paris Johnson Jr. and Hollywood Brown both got the questionable tag. I think Hollywood's going to be one of those guys who is just continuously getting that, kind of same with James Conner. But Paris Johnson is new, and he's been a superstar to start for, you know, his tenure with the Arizona Cardinals at that left tackle position, man. I'm super excited to see where he goes. So, like we've already said, this season is all about competing, putting your best foot forward, and making sure that you continue to bring all of that energy to fight within these games. But then you're going to find yourself fighting against some juggernauts where you just don't have the pieces to really compete properly. You know, I don't know what happens the next time that we face the 49ers. Is Kyler Murray back by that time? Probably. What is this offense looking like at that point? Maybe then I'm saying within under a touchdown. But we still have to remember Josh Dobbs is still a month and a week here in Arizona.
Right, yeah.
Even though he's continued to progress every week. I love it. And Chris, you were saying earlier, 72% completions. I'm also super excited to see the #1 receiving guy for the Arizona Cardinals, Michael Wilson, step out there and have
another Tallman favorite.
Another opportunity to continue a nice start to his career, even though he only has 7 catches. Big 69-yard catch last week, which really helped cement that game away. But I'm just been very, very happy with what I've seen to start this season, because they're doing everything that we've asked for, right? There's so many different pieces at play for the future for the Arizona Cardinals where we know it's not win right now. So when you lose some of these games, these tough games, like lose a fourth quarter game to the Washington Commanders where Josh Dobbs fumbles again, where you hate to see collapses like you do against the New York Giants, but that's what's going to happen for teams like us right now. So you just have to steady the course and ride the waves and enjoy these huge wins against America's team, quotation marks, right? But this matchup against the San Francisco 49ers, especially going to Santa Clara, is going to be a real tough task early in this season. And like I said, I'm still going to sprinkle that money line because we might get lucky and only lose by 10. Should be an easy one, right?
Yeah, I mean, the way we played against the Cowboys. But like I said, we're not going to be surprising anybody. And I just don't think the talent's there. Has it been an incredible surprise here? I saw something, they're doing power rankings like I mentioned, and you guys know who Mike Florio is, right? Yeah, he was very critical on JG and them going to that statue unveiling for Kyler when it was, the weekend before the draft.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he was doing a power ranking, and he came out and he said, and he gave them a decent ranking, but he said, imagine if they tried to win in the offseason. Imagine if they prepared for this season like they wanted to win. I mean, because we've just exceeded every single expectation. And then you look at our defense and what we did to the Cowboys. I mean, the pressure was real. I mean, red zone defense was incredible, holding them to all those field goals and not just bleeding points like we expected them to do. And even against the Cowboys, that was without Budda Baker. That was without arguably our best player on that side of the football, where now it just seems like there's just so much speed and everyone's just putting it out on the line. And that started with the Commanders game where we saw the Kaiser White, you could say it was a dirty hit on Sam Howell on the out where he just absolutely laid him out. And then you saw Jalen Thompson, that same drive, do another aggressive hit. I mean, this defense has just been jumping towards the ball. They've been all over the field. And they've been pressuring the quarterback, and it's just been shocking to me. But that just stuck with me. Imagine if we actually kept some of our pieces, we actually spent some money, and we actually tried to win right now. I mean, we could be 3-0.
It's a great question, and I really like a lot of what you guys are bringing up here. And I think anyone watching this team is impressed and really happy with what they're seeing. This is exactly what we were asking, is have a serious football team that looks organized, that looks well put together, where the play calling is decent. And if the talent just isn't there at the end of the day, like, that's fine for this season, because it takes time to build culture, right, Mike? I mean, when you're talking about this team, it's brand new to them. Jonathan Gannon's coming in, Monty Ossenfort. Yeah, you still have Bidwell up top, but these guys at the coaching level and the staffing positions when it comes to Nick Rallis and Drew Petzing, like, that's a whole culture shift for these guys. It's a whole new coaching staff entirely. And we've even heard and talked about early reports where they were saying, like, the strict nature of it and the actually having expectations and consequences for certain things where they haven't necessarily been there during the Cliff Kingsbury, Steve Keim era. It seems like a lot of that was kind of like wild, wild west, like fast and loose. Cliff wanted to be a player's coach, and I think there's a lot to say for that, but you can be a player's coach when you're winning, but if you're not finding that success, you need to be able to, tighten the ship up and get everyone back on board. And I just think that the culture they're building this year is exactly what I want to see, and the wins will come. I don't necessarily care if they even get 5 wins this season, but it's all about what are they going to do in this offseason with all these draft picks they have. Are they going to move up or down? Are they going to trade for a piece? Are they going to make a splash free agency signing? I don't even have a list of who's potentially a free agent this offseason, but I don't care. At this point, now that I know I was highly critical, guys. I was right there with you, Tallman, and whatever Mike Florio or whoever's saying is like, what if they did more in the offseason? And they kept saying like, oh, we're doing a lot. We're putting together a team and we're trying to be competitive. And just all the signings were a bunch of no-name guys who are on the fringe of being out of the league. But now here they are putting it together and being competitive in these games. And so I know it's a short sample size with just 3 weeks in the book. So I could end up eating those words even, but I've been impressed so far when it's all said and done.
I mean, when you guys go to the grocery store, don't you have to clean out the fridge with all of the dirty and expired things to make sure that everything is fresh? That's what the Arizona Cardinals did this offseason, right? Those are some of those other things, man. Just to be a fly on the wall with some of the conversations that this front office, this brand new GM and these guys that had the ability to sign these players, what were the conversations that they might have had with a Zach Allen? What were the conversations that they might have had with a Byron Murphy? Were those guys ready to change what they had seen for the past 3 seasons and buy into a new system, or go somewhere where they might get paid a little bit more, or to somewhere that has had a little bit more success than the Cardinals have had over the past 3 seasons? I mean, if you look at both of those guys, the Denver Broncos have been struggling for a couple of seasons as well. We know they just got dropped a 70 bomb on by the Miami Dolphins, and the Minnesota Vikings are 0-3. And other than the Vikings going to the playoffs last year, are those really better fits or better situations than what has happened with the Arizona Cardinals as far as on-field success? You're talking about a team that is just 2 seasons removed from going to the playoffs for the first time since 2015, right? There's just some guys just aren't ready to change within the same thing that they've seen, and they need a fresh start. We can go back to Deandre Ayton, right? We've had this whole brand new regime change from the owner to the coach, and he might not have been ready to move the needle and change with us here, and he needed that fresh start, right? But we're headed in the right direction, right? I love it, Chris. I think our number one TikTok is you talking about JG and his shots and his explosions with Rondell Moore, and a lot of the consensus at the same time was because he's a different type of character was the same thing. It was, oh no, what are we getting ourselves into? But we know that he was a successful defensive coordinator with the Philadelphia Eagles, who led them to a Super Bowl. He's brought his own guys in with him, with the young gun, Nick Rallis, and our new offensive coordinator, who had a hand-in-hand with the guy that they brought in, Josh Dobbs and Drew Petzing. They're trying to set their best foot forward with what they know and put these new guys into success, right? But, man, at the same time, you're talking about a whole new defensive scheme, a whole brand new offensive sets, brand new playbook overall. To be competitive the way that they have within these first 3 weeks has been impressive, even though they're not over 500 in wins. So if they can keep up this momentum, and we haven't even talked about Kyler Murray possibly coming back earlier than we thought when we were talking about week 11, week 12. The guy wants to go now. We could see him within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And what does that change for the rest of the season for the Arizona Cardinals, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we were sitting here making jokes about tank season and getting the high draft pick, but even CJ Stroud and the Texans are kind of looking like they're going to fight and try and win games too. So with these other teams that are 0-3, and again, short sample size, but it seems like it's trending towards us not necessarily being the very worst team in the NFL and not finishing with
the Chicago Bears.
With the worst. Very, very much looking like it could be the Chicago Bears. But Tallman, do you think that changes the conversation on when they bring back Kyler Murray and really get him ready to go back with this offense?
So you're saying if we keep winning and we keep going on an uphill trajectory, do you think, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, basically, if we continue to be competitive in games and have a chance to win them, do you bring back Kyler Murray as soon as he's ready to go, basically?
Yeah, I don't even think that has that much to do with it. I don't think they're holding Kyler back because if I'm Kyler, you're not holding me back whether we're 0-3 or 3-0. If I'm ready to go after this week, or because he's on the PUP, so he could be
week 5.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. So say even if they're 0-4, week 5, if I'm ready to go, if I'm ready to roll, I'm Kyler, dude. I'm getting back out there. I'm practicing. I want to start because, I mean, there's a whole couple different ways to look at it. And I'm not saying, well, maybe now I'm not saying he's playing for his job, but, he's got to think, hey, whole new coaching staff in here, new GM. I got to go in there and I got to show him what I can do. I got to show him that I can be productive. And he's sitting there on the sideline watching none other than Joshua Dobbs get better and better every single week. So I don't think I think regardless, even if we're losing and we're losing our ass, I think he's going to be out there because he's a competitor and he knows that it's the NFL. It's not for long. It's a business. So he needs to go out there and he needs to establish that, hey, I was the number 1 overall pick for a reason. This is my team, and he's got to be chomping at the bit to get back out there, right? I mean, I
think Kyler wants to be out there week 5. I think he's ready to go. They keep talking about like the physical versus mental aspect of it. And so physically, I mean, from everything we've seen and all the workout videos and on the field stuff, Kyler is ready to go physically. But mentally, like, is he ready to do what they're expecting him to do? And I think he probably is, guys. And Mike, like, we're talking about one Joshua Dobbs, and we're also talking about Kyler Murray.
Well, first of all, let's pump the brakes.
Okay? No,
Let's pump the brakes. If we're talking about Joshua Dobbs, it's his 7th year in the league already, right? So what? He's no spring chicken.
He's an astronaut. No, he's an
astrophysicist.
Yeah, there we go.
But like Tallman already said, he's chomping at the bit to get back on the field for the Arizona Cardinals. Had to hit you with 3 of them. Damn it, Tallman, you jumped on.
I'm sorry.
You jumped on it too early, but but that's all right. I don't think it's a question of whenever Kyler Murray is ready to go and the front office and the training staff, he's cleared by medical, he's had some practice time. He's obviously been studying the playbook and is going to be ready to go out there with his guys. You give him the reins and you let it go and you see what's going to happen from there. Because one thing we do know, guys, is that Caleb Williams, he really wants to come to the Arizona Cardinals if we have the first overall pick.
But we might not even have the first pick.
Well, that's what it seems
and we've
like
never
now,
had that
right?
discussion yet. We've always sat here coming into the season talking about, we're
a given.
So, yeah, it's going to be us or it's going to be the Texans. But, I mean, Chris already mentioned C.J. Stroud he's taking some strides. Not Stroud, strides. So we might not even have the first overall pick. We might not even have a top 3 pick. And then whoever gets that first overall pick, I mean, we already talked, there's 4 teams that are 0-3 right now. Granted, we could have just an utter, just disgusting collapse. It's totally possible. We could sit here like, oh my God, look at the Cardinals. And then we could rip off a 10-game losing streak. It is totally possible. I mean, our schedule doesn't get that much easier. So I don't know. I mean, take it away from me. Go.
No, you're right on the money, right? But Joshua Dobbs, I've loved what he's done in his very short time with the Arizona Cardinals. But we also know what he is, and we also know what we have and what we should have. A starting quarterback in Kyler Murray. I would love to have Joshua Dobbs as a backup for the next couple of seasons if he continues to prove his worth, within the next couple of games. But you have to find out what you have in Kyler Murray because next year I love it, man. This is the callback pod because it's like if you don't have what you need within Kyler Murray, a.k.a. Deandre Ayton, you need to start looking forward to move the pieces for capital to improve your team. And good thing that, sorry, Mike Florio, the Arizona Cardinals weren't asleep at the wheel when they were working during draft day, and they've set themselves up for success with the amount of draft picks that they have for next year. You can make a huge turnaround really quickly. And if Kyler Murray isn't the answer, you can use some of that capital to possibly get your future starting quarterback. Whether it be a rookie, whether you move up, or whether it be a veteran who is looking for a place next year, right? It's get him in, see what he can do on the field, especially after that ACL injury. I don't care how early he might come back from when he should have come from. What's the normal time frame? 10 to 12 months for an ACL, depending on how severe the tear is.
Or 9, yeah.
But if the guy's ready to go, you give him the reins and you see what he can do, because Josh Dobbs has set such a great example for what you do when you set within a new system. Within 3 weeks, you continue to progress, you don't turn the football over, you get wins, and you move forward. And Kyler Murray is going to have to prove that now, which is a beautiful thing if you're the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, that's a great point. And teams can find success with, I mean, guess for lack of a better word, a serviceable quarterback. Like, you don't need necessarily that elite top tier guy. You don't need the Patrick Mahomes or the Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen Hurts, is he even the greatest passer, or is he just able to execute within having his mobility as well as so many weapons at his disposal? And that's where I think you bring up a great point, Mike, because we kind of do. Every team needs a quarterback of the future and a guy that's going to have a tenure there. But we're paying Kyler Murray a boatload of cash, and if we can get a quarterback to do what a Josh Dobbs is doing, and still be serviceable on the offensive side while saving all that capital to buff the defense, give the offense more weapons, build out a line a little more. Like, when you can spread the love financially, like, that can be beneficial to the team as a whole rather than investing so much in one position. It would suck to give up on Kyler, though. I mean, I do want to see what you have in him. Like, you're absolutely right as well, Mike. You have to give him the shot to show and prove that he's worth the money that we're paying him, because if he's not, like, there might be a team out there that's willing to take that contract off our hands, and then we can kind of see where we go from there. Fellas, I feel like a whole can of worms we opened there, but I do want to close out with one more topic related to the Cardinals, and that is surrounding Budda Baker, who's currently on the injury reserve with a hammy. And I just saw some articles here this week, Tallman, that they're looking at maybe some trade options, and the rumblings are starting up again that Budda's days might be numbered, wearing the red on Sundays.
That would be a blow. I mean, you got to think about what was the one good thing we got out of our last regime. It was Budda Baker. I mean, he's just been, going back to just the Hard Knocks. I mean, the guy is just, he's what you want every football player on your team to be. And I mean, the saying was, what, if you can run out 11 Budda Bakers on defense, you're going to win every Sunday. It doesn't matter. So if that happens, that's just, that would be a hard pill to swallow. But at the end of the day, it's a business. No one's safe. And then we got to remember, they're not Gannon and Austin Fort. He's not a Gannon and Austin Fort guy. So I get it. Can you flip him for some more draft capital? Can you build out in the future and profit from him? You absolutely can, because he's an incredible player. It'd be hard to see him go. He's a fan favorite. He's the leader of the defense. He has been banged up. And I don't want to see him go. I would love to keep him, and because he would be an integral part to the next good Cardinals team. But then if you're going to sit here and just sell all your good players, what does that say to your fan base? You already had that type of offseason where the national media is sitting there in going into the first week of the NFL season, even the second week of the NFL season, the national media is still saying, "Oh, nice tank job. Look at the Cardinals." They're doing exactly what we wanted them to do.
The Giants game was a questionable
situation. And just like we said going in, be competitive but lose at the end of the game. And, and we've obviously proved all those national people wrong. All the talking heads are wrong, that the Cardinals are not tanking. But, if you sit here and you have all these guys buying into the same thing, the Gannon culture is real. The guy is just, he's all business. Did you guys see he wouldn't even celebrate the Cowboys win? The dude was just on to the next one. You couldn't get any emotion out of him. So whatever he's got going on in there, these guys are buying into it. And if Budda Baker is not going to be a part of that, it's just sad to see. So I wouldn't be a fan of it, but at the end of the day, I get it. It's a business, and if they can turn him into some quality pieces, if they go out and they trade him for a 5th, 6th round pick, I will shit the bed right now. I would be very upset. But, like I said, at the end of the day, they're going to – I trust Austin Fort. After that draft, if he sees something and he can pull it, then go for it, boy. You know,
man. I feel like it has to be that. I mean, not that. What I'm saying is, with Budda Baker, it can't be to the point where the relationship is so soured and he's just not going to work with this new regime to where he just wants out of here and they're willing to give up him for just a 5th or 6th round pick because he's worth way more than that. So I think if some team isn't knocking on the door with some incredible offer, that we're not even entertaining that and not even talking about it. I have no reason to believe that he's not legitimately injured and that he would be playing if he were healthy, because he's just, I mean, you would hope, right? You'd hope he's a pro's pro, but it's just like when you see these reports, you hear these conversations being had, and then he's not actively on the roster, he's on the IR, makes you kind of wonder. And I guess you're right, he's not an Austin Fort guy, he's not a Gannon guy. So if the relationship is to that point where he's just like, I'm done with the Arizona Cardinals, Byron Murphy style, get me out of here, then so be it, I guess. And if we only get a 5th and 6th round pick, then whatever. You want guys that are here and that are buying into what we're doing. And we're not winning a Super Bowl this year. We're probably not winning a Super Bowl next year. But what we're trying to do is be in the championship conversation in the next 3 to 5 years. I mean, if we're being realistic about it. And I think those are the moves when you talk about moving on from a Budda Baker and moving on from a Kyler Murray. Those are the decisions you have to make early, and you can't pussyfoot around to just win a couple games in a season where you're not having championship aspirations. And especially when you have the fan base right now comfortable with that situation and that prospect, it's even more the case where that needs to happen. And I think on top of it all, when you see, like you say, Tallman, Gannon being like on to the next, taking it very serious, we're being competitive in every game, I think that's where, going back to what I said earlier, the culture starts to be built, and we have actual optimism, genuine optimism for the long-term future of the Arizona Cardinals. I think for the first time in a long time. Don't want to speak for you guys there, but we've been recording this podcast, guys. We're sneaking up on another 2-hour pod, so I want to kind of wrap it up here, close it out. Mike, I'll give you the floor first. Anything else you want to get off your chest or talk about, Valley Sports related or otherwise?
The only thing I want to say is that I hope pussyfoot around becomes a Chris Patrickism, because ain't that the damn truth, brother? That's the damn truth. Super excited to see the Diamondbacks finish it off tomorrow. Watch the boys jump in the pool. We're going to have another Destination Tallman ticket, it sounds like. So make sure y'all are just staying tapped in. Cardinals, bring the energy in Santa Clara. Deandre Ayton, best of luck in Portland, man. That's really all I can say at this point. And fellas, man, I love y'all. Appreciate y'all once again.
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure, Michael Benjamin. VSP Tallman, the floor is yours.
Yeah. So, like Mike said, tune in for some wet boys tomorrow if you're into that. But yeah, also, Tallman ticket looks like it's going down at Chase Field. So tune in to lose some more money, and if you're a fucking idiot.
It's gonna hit, man. It's gonna hit.
Well, we're behind. The Cardinals are beating me right now, so it's a little depressing right now in the Tallman Ticket studio.
If the ticket hits, Tallman will jump in the pool.
Yeah, and get arrested in the meantime. Yeah, okay.
Well, we'd have to go back. It's a whole thing, but anyway, yeah.
But the only other thing I got to say is we got our first home win and for the Cardinals, first home win in our last 14, 15 home games. So that means so much to this fan base. It means so much for the people out there paying money to go to these games. And if you're one of the people that did not sell your ticket for that Cowboys game, I am so jealous. I envy you, and I am very proud that you decided to stick with the Big Red. Thank you. I'm out.
Hell yeah. Rise up, Red Sea. Very excited for the Diamondbacks game tomorrow. Hopefully we can clinch that victory. Hopefully the Cardinals are competitive against the 49ers. Like Mike said, man, make sure you're keeping up with us and everything we're putting out. We'll have that recap up on Monday for the Cardinals. On Wednesday, we'll have a Diamondbacks recap for you. And we'll just keep getting you more Valley Sports content. So make sure you leave a comment, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You know where to find us. if you've listened this far on the pod, but just in case you forgot, you can find us at AZ_VSP on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, now X, and on Facebook and YouTube at Valley Sports Plug. But I want to thank VSP Tallman and Michael Benjamin very much for making the trek out here to the studio. I'm Chris Patrick, and